So fun to hear all the noise, all the joyous noise of all the things that are going on. I think we're still at the Nordic Fire Fest, right? Still enjoying the mead or something. I don't know anything about mead. Anyone know anything about mead? Yeah. I want to, before we start with announcements, I want to mention this book that has music in it. And I want to make sure that everyone has one. So if you did not get one of these on your way in, please raise your hand, and Dennis and Barb will come around. So a couple on this side, keep your hands up until you have one, please. We're going to be singing during the season of Lent out of this book. It's music from the Tizé community in France. It's a kind of repetitive music. It's a chant-like music. The words repeat themselves. Brother Tizé, Brother Roger from the Tizé community said, music is the best form of prayer. And so during this Lenten season, we're going to be thinking about that and lifting up our voice in song as a prayer. So I want to make sure, I don't see any hands up yet, so it looks like everybody has one. All right, good. There are extra copies of what's in the book on the paper as well. So if we have too many people, we've got copies. All right, we have a lot of stuff going on. I want to call your attention to this exploding syringe. We had $50 more this week, and so the total medical debt that has been forgiven based on your contributions is $350,700. Yeah. And Dennis said there are some envelopes coming in yet today. We were committed to doing this through the month of February, so please bring your gift in. Let Sharon know in the office that you're going to be making a contribution if you want to. And beyond this, you can go to ripmedicaldebt.org and make your own contribution. For every dollar, $100 is forgiven. So it's is that right? I shouldn't even say that. Okay, because my math. So thank you all from the bottom of the hearts of those people who can go on with their lives without that burden hanging over their heads. I want to call out the folks from our community who were instrumental in supporting and organizing the Nordic Fire Festival. Those of you who are here, do you want to raise your hands? Yes, please. Yes, we had a booth there. Our own Cooper Frost, probably, taken it in yet today, is one of the main organizers, the main organizer for that event. So we have been instrumental in making that happen. That's an awesome thing for our community. And Friday night, there was another party going on here. People were tie-dyeing. So I wonder if those of you who have your tie-dye garments or bags or flags or whatever you made on would stand and show off. Yeah. Look at the tie-dyes. Yes. Awesome. Very good. Aw, so cute. Very good. You can stay up here if you want to. We're going to be doing the kiddos in a minute. Lots of things going on this week. Want to mention the Lenten series that starts on Wednesday, 5:30 in the Best Fulton Room right before choir. We would like to know if you might be here so we know how much soup to bring. It's not listed on your welcome card, but if you think you might be here and you would put your name and buy your name Wednesday night, that would be helpful to us so we know how much soup we'll need. Prayer shawl, art team. Next Sunday, a movie. Beginning Women's Equality Month, The Secret Life of Bees. And then if you flip over your insert, so many things going on. Please participate. I want to draw your attention once more to the Lenten resource that comes out of the United Church of Christ. Already, we've been invited to do a couple things. Calculate our carbon footprint as an exercise during Lent of paying attention to how we are on this planet. From yesterday, if the world reduced meat consumption by 15%, it would save the same greenhouse gas emissions as taking 240 million cars off the road every year. 15% of our meat intake. Wouldn't that be a gift? So pick this up. It's on the tables on your way out. And then signing up. Please, for the Wednesday night opportunity, if you plan to be here, just your name and Wednesday night. And then if you're able to bring soup on Wednesday, one of those Wednesday nights, we'd love to know about that as well. Oh my gosh, now we can go home because so many announcements. No, don't you dare. I wrote a sermon. Are there other announcements that I may have forgotten? It is the beginning of the season of Lent. It's a more somber season. It's a time when, like many traditions, Yom Kippur, the Muslim fast days, Ramadan, the Buddhists, the Hindus, every religious tradition has a time of introspection, fasting, taking a look, self-examination, self-appraisal. It's that sort of season when we journey again. And so during the moments of quiet in our service, during the moments of prayer and music, I invite you to take deep breaths and be aware of what's going on within, in your body, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul.
Me? Is this mic working okay? Yep. Okay, good. Let's read together today's call to worship. Jesus, led by the Spirit into the wilderness, you show us how to faithfully follow God. Walk with us, Jesus our God. God, wellspring of wonder, you come among us to hold us in joy and sorrow. Spirit of life, graceful and truthful, You fill us with breath which inspires us. May we breathe deeply of your presence.
20 in your book, number 20, or on your paper, number 20, the second verse, and we'll sing that over several times. I'm going to invite the kiddos to come up. Invite the kid. Now he doesn't want to come up. All right. Kid is full of me. Good morning. I'm going to put my mask back on because I have a little sniffle, and I don't want to spread it around when I'm close to people. So good morning. I have something here. I wonder if any of you know what this is. A mirror. Yeah. It has two parts to it. In one part, let me see which part it is. In this part, take a look. Is your face smaller or larger than this part? Smaller. In the top one, I'm going to pass this around and you can look. In the top, that's you, isn't it? Yeah. In the top one, your face will be smaller, and in the bottom one, your face will be larger. I'm going to pass it around and let you look. It's coming. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, you can look. Yeah. Here, sit right here. Sit right here, and then you can look. Wow. Is that Todd? Yeah. Well, he might just keep it the whole service. Hey, Todd, let's let the other kiddos look. Now, I don't know if it's the same way, but see what you see. Are you smaller in the top or the bottom? Top. Yeah. Is that you? Yeah. So sometimes, I'll tell you a little secret. Sometimes when I get a stray eyebrow that wants to grow on my forehead and I want to pluck it, I mean, this really happens. I'm not making it up. Then sometimes I need the big one because I can't see very well. I have to blow my face up so I can see where that, where that eyebrow is that I want to get rid of. sometimes it's helpful to be able to see ourselves a little bit bigger, right? Yeah, sometimes we want to look at ourselves more closely or more carefully. That's kind of what Lent is about. Lent is about saying, okay, I can see myself like this, but what if I want to look more closely or more carefully? I might want to make things a little bit larger, a little bit bigger, so that I can look more carefully. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's kind of tricky, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I think during your godly playtime is a time when you look at yourselves more closely through the stories that you learn. So I want to invite you to follow Olivia up to godly play and have a good Lenten journey.
The ancient word is a story called The Temptation of Jesus, the version found in Matthew 4, verses 1 to 11. The Holy Spirit led Jesus into the desert so that the devil could test him. After Jesus had gone without eating for 40 days and nights, he was very hungry. Then the devil came to him and said, "If you are God's son, tell these stones to turn into bread." Jesus answered, "The scriptures say no one can live only on food. People need every word God has spoken." Next, the devil took Jesus into the holy city to the highest part of the temple. The devil said, "If you are God's son, jump off. The scriptures say God will give his angels orders about you. They will catch you in their arms, and you won't hurt your feet on the stones." Jesus answered, "The scriptures also say, don't try to test the Lord your God." Finally, the devil took Jesus up on a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms on earth and their power. The devil said to him, "I will give all this to you if you will bow down and worship me." Jesus answered, "Go away, Satan. The scriptures say, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left Jesus, and angels came to help him. The contemporary word is a reflection on Jesus in the Desert by Kayla McClurg, who was an author and leader at Church of the Savior in Washington, D.C. Arising from the waters of his baptism, Jesus hears a voice calling him beloved. Yet it is the spirit of this same voice that drives him out into the wilderness for a rigorous 40-day initiation. Haven't we, too, sometimes sensed a clear calling, only to find ourselves thrust soon after into the desert of angst? Do we know ourselves as greatly loved? Even so, what wildernesses do we find ourselves in and within us? What comforts are drawn from us there? What fears and temptations arise? How do we cope with our vulnerability, with all our hungry, thirsty ghosts? Who will we be if we do not have what we think we need? Upon whom do we place blame when we are tempted from our true path? What wild elements challenge, yet might be bringing aid? Who are the unseen angels who wait on us, patiently midwifing our next birth? Do we emerge from the womb of wilderness diminished or strengthened? How does it impact others when we turn away from the urgent for the sake of the important? It takes real commitment to lay down important plans and projects and withdraw into the wilderness. So much momentum can be lost in 40 days. By the time Jesus is back, John has been arrested. The movement falters. So soon, Jesus must face the very real possibility that their dream of God's realm being embodied on earth might be lost. Maybe it is already too late. What good has the wilderness been? Has it taught him defeat or determination, cowardice or courage? When he hears of John's peril, Jesus leaves, going to the very region where John was taken, right into the heart of danger. Wilderness has shown him what matters most and what time it really is. The time is now, he begins to preach in John's stead. The realm of God is very near. For every busy one of us facing our daily urgencies, Jesus sets a new order, follows a new master. Dare we join him?
I want to invite some deep breaths. Feel during these moments with confidence the earth beneath your feet, the seat that holds you, the air that expands your lungs, brings you life. Your body that works to expel that which is not needed. God's Spirit as close to you as the way your body works and the way you are connected to the planet. Feel safe in this space that is inhabited by people you love on the same journey with you. One more deep breath. Lent is a season of introspection and self-examination. Lent in Latin means to lengthen. It occurs in the spring when the daylight hours are lengthening. It's a season when we often see new life emerging, although I gotta say, it's way too early for that to be happening right now, right? We don't need buds on trees yet, fruit trees especially. Our world is changing. Usually that occurs after Easter, right? We see the crocuses come up, and of course it depends on when Easter is and all of that, but 40 days. It's a 40-day journey. That might ring some bells for you. It rained 40 days when Noah went into the ark. Moses was up in the mountain for 40 days getting a word from God. Elijah was in the mountain hiding from the powers that be for 40 days, waiting for the word of God. The Israelites roamed the wilderness for 40 years, reorienting themselves from having been slaves to now being free and on a journey to a land flowing with milk and honey. As Kayla McClurg reminded us, and thank you for reading that with the passion that I would have imagined her reading it and writing it. As she reminded us, Jesus has just been baptized. He's just been reminded that he is God's beloved, that he will never escape from God's love and care. That's what our baptism is, a reminder that we never escape God's love and care. And then God's Spirit says in so many words, let's see if you can remember that. Let's see what you're made of. Let's get you ready for this ministry ahead. And he literally, in one version, throws Jesus out into the wilderness to become prepared. Seriously? You'd think you'd want to fatten up, you'd want to get comfortable, you'd want to study a whole bunch. The wilderness? Preparation for the ministry ahead. Discovering where your strength lies. Being challenged to see the forces within and without that threaten to call us away from our journey. Growth in character and confidence. What does it take, not just to survive, but to thrive? So we heard the temptations. Jesus is tempted to use his own abilities to do good. What's wrong with being fed, especially if you're hungry? In fact, Jesus will feed people in miraculous ways in his ministry. He knows the dire need of his people who live in poverty. But he also knows that just being fed when systems are unjust will not solve the problem. And he's willing to stand with those who are hungry. Then he's tempted to trust God. Just throw yourself off the steeple. The angels will catch you, no worries. You can show people how you're God's special one. Everybody will believe and follow you. Your work is done. Jesus will do miracles in his ministry. And Jesus knows that the love of God is not always that obvious. And he's willing to stand with people who wonder where God is. Finally, Jesus is tempted to give in to the powers all around him. The devil's power, the power of evil, and the power of the kingdoms, the rulers of the kingdoms, as if they could solve all the problems of the world. The best rulers have not been able to fix things. That's not where power lies, and Jesus knows it. Jesus will speak truth to power in his ministry, and he will die for it. But he knows that power lies in love, in standing with least, last, lost, and lonely. And he's willing to do it. Jesus' time in the wilderness is a time of learning to manage appetites, cravings for satisfaction, for the easy way, for power. It's a time for losing the appetite for things that cannot save. And he comes out freed from all attempts to distract him from hungry cravings that have no power to give life, from any illusion that God will make choices for him, or that he doesn't have agency himself. He was thrown into the wilderness by the Spirit of love, and he comes out knowing he can trust that power again. Alice McKenzie, a minister who preached on this text, took a twist that I think is informative. She reflected on the devil, or Satan, after Jesus had left, on his regret, his chagrin, and he claims that it was way too melodramatic. He should have been more chill. I think this strategy is reflected in a movie that came out a while back called The Last Temptation of Christ, where while Jesus is hanging on the cross, he's tempted to come down and marry his good friends, Mary and Martha, to have family, to perpetuate his disciples, to move his ministry out. Why not live a normal life? Why not do things in a way that people won't question what you were doing? Well, I'm not going to spoil it. Go watch the movie if you haven't. It's a great, great movie. We all lead normal, fulfilled lives. But that doesn't mean we don't have wilderness experiences. The last time you sat in a hospital waiting room, waiting for a loved one to come out of surgery, when you couldn't find your car in the parking lot the same day you lost your job, the days that go on and over, when you have to pretend to be someone you're not. Because to be your own authentic self would be to risk ridicule, loss of job or home, or even life. We've all been in the wilderness in one way or another. The temptation is always to take the easy way out, to bully our way out with clenched fists, to create a way that doesn't honor the time-consuming work of figuring it out. To rely on God and then blame God when it comes out badly. To insist on an answer from outside of us that's a simple solution for a complex problem and wrong every time. Some of the early disciples who would have read this believed that Jesus' return was imminent. They wrote with a sense of urgency about changing your life because Jesus is coming soon. Perhaps they believed that Jesus coming again would save them from the persecution they were suffering. Talk about a wilderness. Perhaps they read this experience of Jesus' journey through the wilderness and coming out the other side and were encouraged. And then, as we know from history, the secular rulers adopted the beliefs of Christianity, and no longer did they have to fear for their lives. Settled into their cozy beds with the latest trinket and baked lamb with rosemary. They became indistinguishable from everyone else. No bold love for one another. No arrests for championing the poor. No speaking truth to power or protesting the injustice of their world. These are the Adam and Eves of the world. Pick the fruit to satisfy the hunger, instead of tending the garden so that all can survive. We don't have the imminent threat of death today as Christians. We probably have the opposite problem. Our temptation is to blend in easily, to snuggle under the weighted blanket, to scroll through the phone and serve honey-baked ham for Easter. It's already sliced. Lent is a season when we stop to ask those hard questions. Where am I too comfortable? Where have I given up my unique path that God is calling me to? Lent is an individual journey. We do it together. We need each other, We need to remember that we're not alone on this journey, but it's an individual journey. It's a time for cleansing our palates of the illusion of control. The truth is that even if we do blend in, we are not safe from life. A fast is often used to suss out the ways we satisfy cravings that result in more cravings, less satisfaction. The Satan within informs the Adam or Eve, you don't have to starve. When the hollow gets too big, just eat. You have the power tool to address this need and make a bigger mess. I came across a curious phrase this past week. Sorry, my Lauren Bacall voice is getting the better of me. I came across a curious phrase this past week that I think in some ways captures our temptation. And it's this and this. Voltaire wrote, "The best is the enemy of the good." In other words, striving for perfection, believing that we can achieve that up there, sometimes takes us away from the beauty, the joy, and the delight that's right here in the good, in the enoughness of life. But you can flip that around too. Jim Collins in Good to Great wrote, "The good is the enemy of the best." In other words, we can get very comfortable with this thing that's comfortable and miss the opportunity to be very specific about the unique calling that God has for us. We can blend in instead of distinguishing ourselves with love. Only you can figure out which of those temptations applies to you. Are you content where you are and need to re-examine the call on your life to uniqueness? Or are you striving and striving and striving for something and ignoring the enoughness, the adequacy, the joy and the beauty and the delight of life as it is? When Jesus was called into ministry, he didn't shirk the journey that brought him face to face with the power of reflection and introspection, facing the demons within and without. He went into it and came out the other side. The temptation for us may be more nuanced than turning stones into bread, but it is the temptation to use our power to power through, to not stop and reflect. It may not be to throw ourselves off the steeple and ask God to save us, but it may be to expect God to do it all and then blame God when it doesn't get done. It may not be to worship evil in all its glory, but it may be to ignore it all around us and within us, because we can. It may be to be content with the good when the best will bring us joy. It may be to continue striving when good enough brings thriving for all. If we go into this season with an aspiration to see what pacifies us so that we are not living well, we may get uncomfortable, but we may learn something too. And we will come out the other side. I promise. Amen. For our prayer time, I invite you to look at the insert in your program. The list is there at the bottom of the page with the calendar on it. I want to add a couple things for the family of Mike Bruce, who died this past week. Those of you who, he was a member of our congregation, those of you who knew him and loved him, our deepest condolences. His testimony was rich, if you were able to be at or watch the service. And then for the family of Karen Hansen, our communications editor, her spouse Due's her spouse's Due and his father, her father-in-law, died as well this past week. The arrangements have not been made yet. Several other prayers. Tyler Hicks is still reporting and photographing the war in Ukraine, a cousin of Diane, so for Tyler's safety. Adam Slott was accepted into CMU's School of Music last weekend. We officially have another Chip in the family. And yes, by the way, the dates for the Wednesday classes are wrong. They're 1, 22, and 29. Thank you, Amy, for pointing that out. And then Joy for Jason Cates and his confirmation today in the church. Congratulations to Dennis and Judy and Jason and his family. Are there other prayer requests that we should know about? Our prayer this morning comes from a book called Guerrillas of Grace, Prayers for the Battle by Ted Loder. It's a prayer called Drive Me Deep to Face Myself. I invite you to take a deep breath and be in a spirit of prayer. God, grant me your peace, for I have made peace with what does not give peace, and I am afraid. Drive me deep now to face myself, so I may see that what I truly need to fear is my capacity to deceive and willingness to be deceived, my loving of things and using of people, my struggle for power and shrinking of soul, my addiction to comfort and sedation of conscience, my readiness to criticize and reluctance to create, my clamor for privilege and silence at injustice, my seeking for security and forsaking your reign. God, grant me your peace. Instill in me such fear of you as will begin to make me wise, and such courage as will enable me to begin to make hope visible, forgiving, delightful, loving, contagious, faith, liberating, peacemaking, joyful, and myself open and present to other people and your reign here on earth. And now, O God, because our prayers are often driven by our own motivations, we lift the prayer that Jesus taught all his disciples, saying together in words that are comfortable for us. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. always grateful for the ways that you contribute your time, talent, and treasure to making sure that this community is indeed God's love in action for our world. And there are specific ways that we focus each month through our giving tree. This week, the giving tree begins next Sunday with the loose change offering. Amy Frost, as many of you know, leads a reading program, summer reading program on Monday nights for kiddos in the community. And the loose change, or the silent change, if you'd like to bring that kind of contribution, it doesn't make noise when it hits the bottom of the bucket. Those contributions will support that ministry. So next Sunday, lots of coin that will make lots of noise. We'll let the kiddos come and pick it up from you, or your silent contributions, whatever you'd like to contribute. And then March 21, a bunch of women around here, maybe some guys too, I don't know, will be filling the spring shoe boxes. And Mary, remind me who those benefit again?
It's the 23rd, not the 21st.
Okay, 23rd.
We give them to Siren and Holding the Furniture, and then they give them to their kids, their clients, prior to spring break. It just gives the kids something to do over spring break, and they get something to do.
Great. So the local agencies that serve our kids already hand these out for spring break, and there's fun things to do in them, crayons and little games and books. And please make your contributions before, I guess the 21st is when you want the contributions, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Or the 21st or 22nd.
Okay. And then the... Great. 23rd is when they get filled, so anytime before that, please bring your contributions. Mary wants to make sure you know 10:30 is the time when the boxes get stuffed. Another deep breath as we prepare to exit this safe place on our Lenten journey. I invite you to share in hymn number 202. receive this benediction, an excerpt from Desert Lesson by Andrew King. Jesus is awake, blankets clutched to keep out the cold while he sits and watches stars fade in the spreading dawn. He sighs and stands and stretches, a solitary and hungry, yet somehow satisfied man. He folds the dusty blankets. Day has come to the wilderness around him. The sun is full and blazing. Saying, "Get away from me, Satan," Jesus starts to walk from the desert testing toward the towns and cities where his ministry of love will begin. His feet leave firm prints in the sand. I invite you as you go to follow those prints in the sand, the way that Jesus has made. Go in peace.